you're an NFL fan, you love a good mock draft. You love looking at the different possibilities your team may go and who they may select in the first round. Well, I'm going to do you one better today. I'm going to show you their entire draft class. That's right, we're doing a 7-round mock draft. These take a ton of work, a ton of time. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Go ahead, share it if you like. And as always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. Another great way to support the channel is with our beautiful sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code Broshmo, they're willing to match your deposit anywhere up to $100. Remember, that's signing up with Broshmo. But let's go ahead and get into this sucker. And full transparency, we do this by draft class. That way you can see all the different players your team selected. It's going to be in alphabetical order. No trades, except for one obvious one, and we'll get to that when we get to that. So let's go ahead and get into this sucker. Starting with the Arizona Cardinals, and I ended up taking Jalen Carter with that first pick. Listen, Watt's retired. Zach Allen's a free agent. They have good young edge rushers. So I was like, you know what? Jalen Carter is kind of like a no-brainer for me. And then we went with John Michael Schmitz to get some help on the interior there in the second round. Did grab some edge talent eventually with guys like Will McDonald in the, I guess that was the beginning of the third round. And we also grabbed Nick Hampton, who's kind of a DPR candidate. So not exactly a guy that could be consistently out there 3 downs. But yeah, I mean, you don't know what you have in Myjah Sanders, and then you also have Cameron Thomas there. So just I wanted to add more guys to the defense. Unfortunately, I really couldn't address the corner position as early as I liked. So I ended up being able to grab Caillou Blue-Kelly at the beginning of the 4th round. I grabbed Mekhi Gardner, who has great size at corner later on in the draft, and also with D-Hop likely potentially to be traded this offseason, I thought Cedric Tillman was actually a really good pickup at receiver. And then I also grabbed D'Anthony Jones, who's this very versatile defensive lineman, at least in terms of his body type. He had great production there for Houston. He had over 25% pass rush win rate. The problem is he's like 6'1", 280 some pounds, and he primarily played on the edge for Houston, so he's a bit of a tweener, but a really good get there at late day 3. Now, on to the Atlanta Falcons, where we snagged Tyree Wilson. Just edge felt like a good spot there for the Atlanta Falcons. And then things took a turn for like, I did not expect to go this heavy on offense initially. But then I was like, you know what, Jahmyr Gibbs would be kind of a good, like, this is a team that really wants to run the football. It's Arthur Smith. So, like, Tyler Algier, Jahmyr Gibbs, what a compliment. Cordero Patterson's probably, I don't know if he's a free agent this year, but probably a guy you could probably move on from. So I was like, okay, we could do that. And I was like, you know what? Let's just try to add more firepower with our next few picks so we could get a good and accurate evaluation of Desmond Ridder. So I went with Parker Washington to be that that after the catch target in the slot. Raheem Jarrett brought some speed and vertical separation that really you don't have with like a Drake London opposite of him. So I was like, okay, we grabbed 2 receivers, grabbed a running back. Let's start addressing the defense. I mean, I did get Tyree Wilson. He is going to be a 3-down player who is going to be a really good run defender, and he's very polished, or he needs more polish as a pass protector, or a pass rusher. There we go. So what else can I get? I got Moro Ojamo, who is a bit of a tweener, but a very versatile, penetrating interior type. Ja'Cory Bennett added cornerback depth, and I continue that with Avery Young, a guy who's played safety, he's played corner, he's played in the slot, he's played everywhere there for Rutgers. So nice, versatile defensive back there. And then like this was a late 7th round pick, Jaron Hall. I was like, you know what? Things really go south with Desmond Ridder. Let's just grab Jaron Hall. He could be a good backup. I'm not like the biggest fan, but there weren't really quarterbacks that I was in love with, and I was like, yeah, late 7th round pick. Let's take a swing. But overall, like this Atlanta, this wasn't initially because I tried to come into this with a game plan for each team, and I got it in the second round, and I called an audible real quick with the Falcons. So you let me know what you think of it in the comment section. Let's go to the Baltimore Ravens, as they only had 5 picks. So we grabbed Jackson Smith-Njigba for Lamar Jackson. I do anticipate Lamar to be with the team next year. He's going to get franchise tag. I think they're going to sign a long-term deal. I don't think he's leaving Baltimore. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's a very good run blocker. I think even if he is really just maybe the slot-only guy, he's so good after the catch, just gives Lamar a good underneath target. Grabbed a DJ Turner because Marcus Peters is a free agent. Keaton Mitchell is probably my favorite pick here out of ECU. This guy's a home run threat with lots of speed, and Justice Hill is a free agent, and I like this pairing with J.K. Dobbins. We got Rajon Wright, so just some more cornerback depth. He was kind of the best player available too at that time. And then grabbed the Chattanooga defensive interior. Was it Devoncha Maxwell? He's, I believe, going to be at the Shrine Bowl. He had a particularly good, I believe it was the Hula Bowl. Let me look this up real quick, because now it's eating at me. I'm pretty sure it was the Hula Bowl, but could be speaking out of my butt. It was the Hula Bowl. See, I know my stuff. I don't need my notes in front of me. Haha. But despite only having 5 picks, I'm pretty satisfied with this draft. On to the Buffalo Bills, and we grabbed Drew Sanders with the first pick. If they let Tremaine Edmonds walk, I think Sanders would be a good pickup because he's got comparable tools, comparable athleticism. And I knew I wanted to address the offensive line, so I grabbed Cody Mock, a very versatile offensive lineman who can end up being a tackle or a guard. You could use him guard early on. Very good movement skills. I grabbed a guy that I really liked later on, Eric Sorensen, who I think could be a good center in the league. At a Northern Iowa guy I really liked at the Hula Bowl. I believe he's now on his way to the Shrine Bowl as well. And Tank Bigsby was there in 92. I was like, Devin Singletary's a free agent. Why not? And then grabbed some secondary help with Ronnie Hickman. I think he's actually probably a really good fit for what they run coverage-wise in Buffalo. We got Hodges Tomlinson, Travius Hodges Tomlinson, THT, who's might end up being a slot, could maybe even be a safety. I wouldn't mind starting him on the outside, but there are size concerns there. But he literally was best player available, and I was like, I gotta snag him here. I felt like there was just a very good value, so I walked away. I think doing what I wanted to do, addressing the offensive line, at least with one high pick, and then a guy I really liked later on. Grabbed some secondary help. Those were kind of my two areas I really wanted to address with the Bills. On to the Carolina Panthers. Hey, Will Levis fell to us at 9, and I'll explain with other teams that could have drafted him later on. But the other 2 quarterbacks were off the board. So getting Will Levis at 9 I thought was pretty solid. The Carolina Panthers need a QB, so we snagged one. Then I felt like I was really rolling the dice potentially with Andre Carter out of Army, because he is a developmental prospect. But I think you could at least use him early on, similar to like a Hassan Reddick. Have him in that type of role where he's like attacking like Y9, because I think that's going to be beneficial for Carter as you develop him to be a more complete guy, as you develop his body to get acclimated to the NFL, getting this guy in an NFL weight room. He's just got really good upside, great length. Rashid Rice got receiver help, a guy that can work inside and out. I think would be a good addition with guys like DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall. There we go. Isaiah McGuire. Listen, I really, outside of Brian Burns, they don't really got to form a pass rush opposite of him. So I felt like gambling twice or doubling down on it with a guy like Isaiah McGuire, who I think is going to have a pretty good Senior Bowl. He's put on good tape this season as well. Kendre Miller, Dante Foreman is a free agent. Chuba Hubbard's been really good this year, but I think pair him up with Kendre Miller, you get just this nice running back combination there. I just really wanted to grab kind of more playmakers for the offense. He was best player on the board as well. Owen Popo's good linebacker depth, the guy that's going to test out Freaky. Byron Young, getting more depth for the interior. He's an Alabama prospect. Typically, they're fairly solid, if not unspectacular. So I thought it was good value at 146. So ultimately, after I grabbed Andre Carr, I was like, oh man, dude, I feel like I'm really rolling the dice with guys like Levis and Carter, but I felt like this draft really came together, and ultimately, I felt good about it. Let's continue with the Chicago Bears, and here's my only trade I decided I was going to do, because I was like, originally I was going to do no trades, but I was like, you know what? Just right now, it seems like the Colts are kind of like the bet-in favorites. If there is a trade at 1, that they're the ones to move up. So I was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead. Let's do this trade and not worry about it for the rest of the mock draft. Because I know I was going to see in the comments, the Bears aren't going to keep the first round pick or the first overall pick. And I was like, I don't want to deal with that. Let's go ahead. Let's do the trade and then not talk about it. But the Bears did trade the first overall pick. They got the fourth round pick, or the fourth round. They got the 4th overall pick, which they used on Will Anderson because Arizona took Jalen Carter. Because I kind of like Jalen Carter a bit better, or at least for the Bears. But Will Anderson, it's literally 1A, 1B. So we grabbed Will Anderson, but we got the 4th overall pick. We got the Colts 35th pick. So now you're replacing that pick that you used to get Chase Claypool. You grabbed a first rounder in the 2024 draft as well as a 3rd rounder, because I really think it's going to be 2 first rounders and 2 day 2 picks. I feel like that's going to be at least the value right now. I didn't want to experiment with potentially players because there's been talks about like maybe Michael Pittman. Ooh, and I was like, I'm not going to mess with that. But let's talk about the draft class. We grabbed Will Anderson. I liked it. Josh Downs we ended up using a receiver for the 36th pick. Just wanted to get him more receiving help, and I really like Downs. I think this is a guy that's just twitched up athlete that can really create after the catch. Keon White ends up, because I was like, man, I knew that I wanted to get some playmakers at wide receiver. And I mean, I was able to get Elijah Higgins later on in the draft, who's a tall, speedy, vertical receiver, and grabbed Josh Downs. I was like, you know what, that's fine. I added some good depth there, or some talent. But I really wanted to address the defensive line because they basically gutted their defensive line. So I grabbed Keon White, who is just this powerful player who could work inside and out. I grabbed Jaquelin Roy, who honestly at LSU playing at nose tackle, being sub 300, and it's not like he's like bad sub 300. He's like 297. He could it's not that bad, but like probably better to play him maybe more at a 3 tech position. I'm like, you know what? Okay, we'll grab that. That's just adding to more talent on that defensive line. I ended up also addressing the offensive line with a couple of these picks. I thought Wanda Morris is a guy that can end up paying dividends, whether he plays, like, he's a guy with experience at right tackle this past season at Oklahoma. He has the type of build that can also work in guard. He played left tackle before as well, so he gives you a little bit of versatility with that, and he's a guy that honestly has I just talked about him in yesterday's video, a guy that just really hadn't attained his potential, former 5-star recruit. So I thought that was a good pickup. Jake Andrews is kind of his all right center there for Troy. So if anything, it's center competition. You'd be like, oh my gosh, you grabbed a kicker. What the heck? And I was like, listen, we see kickers and punters go in the draft, so I have to include them somewhere. You know what? Bears could use a kicker. So he's the first kicker and punter actually off the board. If you look at last year, the first kicker / punter was off the board at 124. It was Cade York. Cleveland picked him up. So I was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead. We got picks. Let's snag a kicker here with Harrison. Was it Mavis? He had the most kicks from 50-plus yards last year. So grabbed him. Didn't even mention the linebacker edition. I grabbed a nice athletic linebacker, a Henley, because they could probably use better athletes at the linebacker anyway. Because like I know Sanborn showed a little bit this year, but they're missing an actual athlete. Like Henley is that guy. Overall, I walked away pretty happy with this haul, and I think the trade makes all the sense in the world for the Bears to do so. So accept that trade, Bears. All right, let's head to the Cincinnati Bengals. This was another one I was satisfied with. I knew I wanted to get tackle help, and I knew I wanted to really just kind of like grab probably like the best players on the board. Just keep adding a lot of good talent to the squad, and I think I did that. Anton Harrison, we got at 29, which I was very happy about. Listen, I know Jackson Carman had a good game in the divisional round, but I feel like Anton Harrison is this insurance option because you got Leo Collins coming back from injury again, and he didn't even look that good this season. And if they don't want to re-sign Jonah Williams after next year, then you get a cheaper alternative. Like so, I feel like I felt like that was just a good choice. And Anton Harrison, I think he's like 21 or 22 on my big board, so it was good value. Luke Musgrave. I was like, you know what? Like, if everyone's really high on this guy blowing it up at the Senior Bowl, that he's going to test out as a freaky athlete, I mean, Hayden Hurst is a free agent. So, went ahead, snagged him. Kobe Turner is just a guy I really like, and I know the Bengals love their defensive interior players. Zach Evans was the best player on the board at 131. Just a great athlete at running back, and honestly, it gives a good depth to the backfield there with Joe Mixon, and also allows you to maybe, if you don't want to pay Joe Mixon, get off of Joe Mixon. Just saying. They do have to figure out what they're going to do with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins after next season. So the Dontayvion Wicks is more so the answer for Boyd. I'm hoping they sign T. Higgins, but Wicks is a guy that I think could come in and be a very good slot player. We got Ryan Greenhagen, who I think he set like the college football record for tackles in a game. That could be wrong, but he had actually. I can't wait to watch this guy at the Shrine Bowl. So I've seen a little bit of him, and he just has a natural nose for the football. Jermaine Pratt is a free agent, so also with that. But again, we're picking him 206, so it's like, do you really want like a 6th rounder to replace it? To replace a starting linebacker position, but in some cases it works. Malcolm Rodriguez, so you take those shots. Darius Davis, I like what he could do as a receiver, but better yet, he's a really good return man. Definitely better than Trent Taylor. I can promise you that. So I walked away very happy actually with this Bengals draft class. Let's keep this sucker rolling with the Cleveland Browns, and you know what? I didn't think this was half bad. I was like, man, with these later picks, it's going to be tough, but I like what I did here. Felix Anudike, because Clowney's likely out, and freaking Myles Garrett needs a running mate. Trey Palmer just adds some more wide receiver talent to the room. I kind of think they might get Diop, but if they don't, like you just get another talented receiver here at 99. Kenny McIntosh could be that potential Kareem Hunt replacement. If you're familiar with the channel, you know that I absolutely love Kenny McIntosh. He's one of the better receiving backs in this class, and he's actually brings return skills, and on top of that, he's actually become a lot more patient. The vision's looked a lot better as a runner. I grabbed linebacker depth with Anthony Orgy, Clayton Tune. I was like, you know what, dude? If these go south with Deshaun Watson, just in case, because Jacoby Brissett is a free agent, so maybe just start working on that next backup. And actually, I like Tune's potential. I think he could be like a sneaky Bailey Zappi like prospect. Jared Clark is one of my guys in this class. I absolutely love him, and if there's anything that defensive line's missing, it's a space eater, a guy that could be definitely scary in the run game, and he's got legit pass rushing upside. And we got Juice Scruggs, who's interior depth for the Browns on the offensive line. Broderick Martin, just another space eater there out of Western Kentucky. So Yeah, overall, man, I walked away pretty happy with this class, despite not having a pick till 43, and then having only 2 picks in the top 100. I thought we did good. I thought we did good. All right, on to the Dallas Cowboys, and you had to know I was going to draft a kicker for the Cowboys, Brett Maher. Holy smokes! But yeah, I ended up getting Bijan Robinson. Especially when I'm the one like trying to draft for this team, thinking what they may do, but also starting to stay true to my board. Bijan does tend to fall, but at Dallas, I was like, listen, Tony Pollard is a free agent. I don't think the injury is going to affect his value too much because I think recovery time for that's like 3 months. But Bijan allows you not to have to obviously re-sign. I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign Tony Pollard, but it enables you to get off Zeke's contract eventually. I think that might be manageable after next season. So Bijan ended up just being a really good value there. Jalen Jones got at 59. I thought he was a good scheme fit. Anthony Brown's a free agent. Jordan Bell ended up being best player available, but he's typically the type of style of safety Dallas really likes. Marvin Mims just got another highly productive receiver from Oklahoma. It worked out last time with CeeDee Lamb, just saying. Then we ended up drafting that kicker. Dude has a legit boot. Andre Caesarmite. I don't know how to say his name. It is what it is, though. And didn't even notice this. I ended up grabbing another guy out of Syracuse back-to-back there with Mikael Jones. I'm actually a big fan of his. I think he's lengthy. He's pretty underrated. I think he's got good movement skills. So, Vander Esch, ain't he a free agent this season? So, and I actually doubled up on linebacker with D Winters because, it's these midday 3 guys. I feel like, you know what? If I'm going to really try to address the position, let's just go ahead, take 2 shots at it to increase your chances on hitting at least one of them. Dante Demas was, I thought, a really good option there to give them a big-bodied vertical wide receiver. However, he's not the fastest guy, but kind of is what it is. Stephen Blaylock, nice sub-package, special teamer that you like to get there in the 7th round. So overall, I really liked the Dallas Cowboys draft class. All right, on to the Denver Broncos. I ended up snagging Darnell Wright with their first pick. Got that right tackle of the future. Toi Peloto was the best player available and was he's just going to be a nice penetrator there on the interior. Chris Smith, I knew this was one of the guys I knew I was going to try to target for the Broncos just because Kareem Jackson, he's pretty old, and actually he played a bulk of their deep safety snaps. So Chris Smith is kind of that day 2 guy that's really the only one that I would say is a true center fielder. Like, there's a couple of other guys that they have that athletic ability. It's just they did play that role a lot. So Chris Smith, bam. Hendon Hooker, this was my happiest. Because let me tell you, at pick like 70, that's when I started really trying to consider Hendon Hooker. I went through a lot of teams. I was like, you know what? I'll just go here. And we finally got to this pick. And I was like, you know what? Let's try to find at least a potential backup, like, escape plan on Russell Wilson. Because, I know they're so financially indebted to Wilson for the next few years. Having a Hendon Hooker at least on the roster, you're not going to start him right away because obviously the injury, but I thought it was just really good value. Chase Brown I thought was also a very good value there at 140. Got that old knowing Javonte Williams, where he'll likely have the J.K. Dobbins timeline where he probably won't be available till November. Having a running back to start the year, Chase Brown could be that guy. Mekhi Blackmon's just really good depth that I feel fits the scheme. Ventrell Miller is a good depth at linebacker and also going to be a good special teamer. So this one was probably the more surprising draft because I really didn't know what to do. It doesn't feel like the Broncos have a lot of holes. So you just I knew I wanted a right tackle and then just kind of get good players. And you know what? I really like how it turned out. Probably going to say that about all my draft classes. Under the Detroit Lions, and I executed the first part of my plan, I think, perfectly. I was like, I'm going to go ahead. It's a deep edge class. I'm going to take Christian Gonzalez. I'm going to get my pick of corner because that's what Christian Gonzalez is the first corner that was off the board. And maybe I can look at edge either at pick 18 or at pick 49. And Lucas Van Ness ended up being there, and I thought he's a good fit, a guy that could be early downs on the outside, and then on passing downs, kick inside, where you could bring James Houston in, who is that designated pass rusher on passing downs. So I really, really like that. Jack Campbell just feels like a Dan Campbell linebacker. I think it would be a good linebacker duo there with Malcolm Rodriguez. Kayshon Boutte was exceptional value. Like, DJ Chark's a free agent, and Boutte isn't exactly the same type of guy as Chark. Both went to LSU, though, huh? And honestly, I think it was probably character concerns because, like, Boutte, I think I'd be willing to take inside the top 50. But, okay, he goes at 56 here. But I was like, you know what? This is really good value. Not a lot of people think they probably need receiver, but I'm going to take a shot on this guy. This guy could end up being a superstar. I got JL Skinner. He's a bit of a tweener, but I think they could use him as a box safety there if they want to, maybe potentially get an upgrade from Deshaun Elliott, or at the very least, he's going to be this sub-packaged linebacker. So Skinner was good value at 82. Adam Kosak, I got y'all a punter. He's got the biggest boot in this class. Hey, these kickers, punters had to go somewhere. Muhammad Ibrahim, I snagged him late because Jamal Williams is free agent. Even if they bring him back, DeAndre Swift is hurt all the time. Tyler Lacey was kind of best player available. Nice penetrator with versatility. He could play at multiple spots on the defensive line. So overall, man, I really like this class for Detroit. It was like, all right, hopefully I could get edge either at 18 or 49. Ended up being able to get it at 18. I was like, all right, let's just draft good players. And I felt like I did that. All right, next we got the Green Bay Packers. And this was a draft I also really liked. Quentin Johnson, they're at 15. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, what did you do for the Houston Texans at 12? You'll find out next, so calm down. But listen, maybe this compels Aaron Rodgers to be back for another year. You're going to have one of the most fierce young receiving trios in the league with Christian Watson, Quentin Johnston, and Romeo Doubs. So I like that. And then I went ahead and was like, not just that, Aaron, we're going to protect you with Andrew Voorhees, a guy that could play. I think he could play tackle in the NFL if you really need him to, but ends up playing the other guard spot. And you know what this goes is, even if it's not Aaron, hey, Jordan Love, we're going to give you at least a fighting chance. So I grabbed Jair Brown, who's this nice tone setter that actually feels like he'd be a good replacement for Adrian Amos, who's had a down year, but also is a free agent. KJ Henry, I know it's like, oh, they don't really need an edge. He was the best player on the board. And that's the thing. I go into these drafts like, I'm not going to reach on need. If there's a guy falling that's really good, that's high on the board, I'm going to go ahead and snatch him up. Zach Pickens, I thought, is just a high upside guy that just, the consistency was never there with him. So good guy you could maybe develop. Luke Schoonmaker is maybe a guy that could potentially replace Robert Tonyan, but it's pick 171. So I guess we'll see. Then I just ended up just grabbing best player available after that because all these picks are mid to late 7th round. DeMarco Hellams is probably a special teamer. Carter Warren, good scheme fit. Doesn't he end up being a start? Good depth at least. Drake Thomas, he's a good football player. I was like 244. I was like, man, he's just a good football player. Put him on the squad. Connor Galvin, again, best player available. And Xavier Valade, I actually like this because I thought it was good depth. And also Aaron Jones could end up being a cap casualty at some point. AJ Dillon is that a guy they're going to want to go with moving forward? So I think it is important to maybe grab like running backs you could maybe develop or at least have a nice depth at the running back position in general. So let's go ahead, get to the Houston Texans. As I took CJ Stroud. Listen, Bryce, we'll talk about the Colts. Bryce Young ended up going first. But I saw this. I forgot whose mock draft I saw this in. I don't know if it was Daniel Jeremiah's. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah's. Not positive, though. But I love the idea of pairing Derek Stingley with Joey Porter. And immediately, you have this scary secondary that has Jalen Pitre in there, too. Like, you have a legit scary secondary at that point, I think. I thought it just sounded too sexy to pass up. I was like, you know what? I'll try to address receiver eventually. And unfortunately, that didn't happen until pick 188, but it kind of is what it is. Nolan Smith, he was best player available. They need pass rush. Don't know what exactly they'll be doing schematically just yet until they make their new head coach hire. But again, best player on the board, just went with him. Devin Achane, there was no wide receiver or no defensive lineman that I felt were good scheme fits or good values by the time I got to pick 66. So I was like, I just want a playmaker. And Devin Achane, he could do that as a return man. He could do it in the backfield as a good complement to Dameon Pierce. He could also be a good receiving option. So this man's fast. So that's why I went with that. Tucker Kraft, again, didn't really like the receivers available around that area. So I was like, maybe at least I could get a pass catcher with a tight end, right? So I grabbed Tucker Kraft. He's pretty good. Gervin Dexter, I like his upside. At 104, it was too much to pass up. Ricky Stromberg, I think, could be a contender to start at center. And then I got Yoshi Voss out of Princeton. He's got good size. He's a track star there at Princeton. So you're essentially getting a Brandon Cooks type. Jose Ramirez, just more edge help. Really good value at that point. Aubrey Miller's linebacker depth. Keontae Thompson, I think, is a guy that's just really good after the catch. Even if he doesn't end up really making a dent as a receiver, he could probably do it as a return man. Jacob Slade, I was just like, you know what? This is a guy that could immediately be in the defensive line rotation. Like, this guy's going to be a good rotation player throughout his whole career. So it was just good value there. And I walked away. While yes, it's like, oh, where was the big receiver get? I'm sorry, this was a team that had a lot of needs and a lot of holes, and I really just wanted to get good players, and I felt like I got good players. So I was really happy with this class. On to the Indianapolis Colts. We traded up for Bryce Young, so we got rid of the fourth pick, but basically turned that into the first overall pick. But we also lost that second round pick, and I still think we came away with a really good class. Like, we got our quarterback in Bryce Young. I was like, mission accomplished. That's really only thing I cared about. So let's see what good players we can get. Derek Hall. Listen, it sounds like Gus Bradley is probably coming back. So if he does, like, Derek Hall is actually a really good scheme fit for Gus Bradley's scheme for a unit that did not get a lot of pressure because they don't blitz a lot. Nick Broecker ideally is going to push Will Freeze out of that other guard spot. He's just not good. Broecker, I like his ability. Julius Brents is just a big corner who I thought would be a scheme fit for. Again, I'm literally drafting this for freaking Gus Bradley's scheme. It sounds like they might keep him. So I was like, yeah, okay. So I grabbed Brents. Jaden Reed I thought would be good wide receiver depth. Thomas Incoom is good. It's good depth at edge as well. Kind of a versatile body type, kind of like the Deo Odenigbo. Then we grabbed Kadeem Telfort, who's just this massive tackle with great length. I think could be worth developing. So, if anything, I was really happy about our first 4 or 5 picks. Granted, we only had 2 picks in the top 80. We only had 4 picks in the top 200. I thought we still came away with a solid class in spite, and we went ahead and grabbed the best quarterback in the class. On to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I knew I wanted to address the guard spot. And after that, I was like, man, I guess just grab good players, but I really wanted to address the guard spot. That's why I was really happy. Osiris Torrance was available at 25. I was like, okay, cool. Mission accomplished. Because the other guard they got there, Tyler Shantley, is a better reserve than actual starter. And then at 57, I was like, you know what? I've never been the biggest Rashawn Jenkins fan, admittedly. I think Sidney Brown pushes this guy for his money. This is a guy that has insane range, insane hidden power. He's literally like a freaking bowling ball out of a cannon, and I would like him to challenge Jenkins. So maybe this is just me kind of like maybe this is just my ideal scenario. At 89, you're like, oh, you took a receiver? We already have all these receivers in tow. Like, Tank Dell was the best player available. Like, I was surprised he was available at 89, and I was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and swoop him up. Just, again, more firepower for Trevor Lawrence. Jartavius Martin actually was a guy that I knew I wanted to get for this team, so I don't think I jumped on him early. Like, I'm not gonna lie, at 89, I actually thought about taking him, and I was like, gosh, no, that's just too big of a reach right now. Hopefully he has a great Senior Bowl, so it doesn't look like a reach, but so I waited. I ended up snagging him because currently they're kind of without a good slot with Darius Williams playing outside and playing very well there. So Martin, I thought, was just ideal. Byron Young out of Tennessee, just good depth at edge. Arden Key is a free agent, so a guy who has very good physical traits that could immediately be this rotation player you include. Sim Richards is a good developmental tackle prospect. Then I grabbed Alex Austin, cornerback depth. Tavion Thomas, basically just a power back at the back end that you're investing late in. Zach Kuntz, just a large athletic tight end that I actually like getting. I think that's a guy that's probably makes the roster too. But yeah, no, I thought this was a good class. I mean, hey, I said it at the beginning. I really just wanted to get a guy that could play guard and then call it a day. Just start drafting good players, and that's what happened. All right, on to the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a heck lot of picks. I was surprised I was working with this many picks. So in this scenario, I ended up going with if you were with us for the Walk the Mock, which is basically a real-time draft simulator where you pick a team and then other people pick teams as well, and you're basically drafting against other people. It's really cool. We're doing it actually later tonight. Check it out. But I went with in that Walk the Mock, I took Zay Flowers and I took Zach Harrison. I was like, you know what? Those guys were available there. I thought it was wild. I was like, you know what? Let's grab Zay Flowers. Let's see what happens if we go from here. Let's get that Tyreek speed. Not saying he is Tyreek Hill, but he's fast. And then Zach Harrison was available at 63. And I was like, you know what? Send it. Let's see what the rest of our class would look like after taking these two guys that I drafted in that Walk the Mock. So Zach Harrison, real Spagnola type guy on the edge. I grabbed Sam Laporta. Travis Kelce's old, still playing at a high level, but still I thought Laporta is a really good receiving tight end. So I was like, why not? Which is a shame. I really wanted to address defensive line early, and it just happened. It's like you realize a lot of the good nose tackles kind of went off the board pretty early. So I was like, oh crap, whatever. And then I get to 122 and I take Tyler Steen because I was like, okay, they need tackle help as well. And I think Steen's going to be a guy that really helps us stock out at the Senior Bowl. And then I'm looking, I was like, I literally went for a team that I was like, man, I really think they need defensive line help. 3 of their first 4 picks are offense. And it's like, crap. I was like, okay, where can we go from here? And then I freaking grabbed Deuce Vaughn. And I'm like, what am I even doing? 4 of my top 5 picks for the Chiefs are offense. And I grabbed Vaughn because I was like, you know what? Jerick McKinnon is a free agent, so Vaughn would be a super fun fit. So I was like, I really have to address defense pretty hard now. So Jonah Tavai's guy I really like. Doesn't have that nose tackle size, but did play a bit of nose tackle there for San Diego State. He was like super productive. Trey Dean was safety depth. Juan Thornhill is a free agent. Not that I think Dean could be a replacement. Yaya Diaby, I thought is another guy that kind of fits the scheme, just more edge help. I ended up going back to the offense for some of these later picks with Luke Haggard being offensive tackle depth, Ronnie Bell, good return skills, good receiver depth. MJ Anderson, I'm going back to edge again on a guy that I actually really like. Really good shot here in the later rounds. And then Merlin Robertson just ended up being best player available. Could end up being a good special teams guy. But I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't mind this draft class. I really don't. I know we grabbed a lot of weapons and a tackle. Didn't really address that defensive line, but I guess it kind of is what it is. You tell me what you think in the comment section below. All right, on to the Las Vegas Raiders. And I really do think the Raiders are going to end up getting a veteran quarterback, whether that's like a Jimmy G. I don't know if they make a move for Aaron Rodgers. I really feel like they're going to get a veteran quarterback. So that's why I didn't go quarterback in the first. Instead, I grabbed Devon Witherspoon because this team needs corner help. And I think he's a great fit for Patrick Graham's defense. Rocky Sin is a free agent. So, like, Witherspoon's good. I think there's going to be a good chance he's a legit first rounder or a top 10 player. Antonio Johnson, I ended up snagging him in the second round because I was like, you know what? Let's just invest heavily in the secondary, right? This guy could be a big slot. He could play a traditional safety role there with Trevon Merrick. So I was like, okay, you know what? Okay, we invested very nicely into the secondary. And then at 71, I was like, you know what? Okay, let's take a shot at a quarterback here. Tanner McKee, falling down the boards just because he's not mobile. But I think he's a guy that Josh McDaniels could definitely work with. So I did it. I took Tanner McKee. Listen, dude's got a good NFL arm. He's extremely accurate. So like Tanner McKee could, honestly, if you're not impressed with whatever veteran you sign or if there's an injury, I think there's a good shot Tanner McKee could lead this Raider team offensively. But grabbed edge help with Nick Herbig. He's probably going to be an off-ball linebacker because of his size, but he's also a very good blitzer. Addressed the offensive line with Warren McGlennon. He's very unspectacular, but he's very solid there from Georgia. Roshan Johnson. This is your backup to Josh Jacobs because I think it sounds like he really wants to be back with the Raiders. But even if he isn't, I think this would be a good pickup here. Jackson Kirkland's just some more offensive line depth there. Cameron Young grabbing that nose tackle. He's kind of a late day 2 guy or day 3 guy, so it felt right. Daniel Scott is a good versatile DB that also brings great special teams experience. Derek Parrish, just a good football player. This cat was a monster as a pass rusher. He just flies everywhere. At the Shrine Bowl, he's going to be working, I think, on both offensively and defensively. So, I thought it was a good get. And then Puka Nuka there at a BYU. Versatile, slippery pass catcher. I don't think he has great long field speed. But, man, this guy really created after the catch or even as a ball carrier in the backfield. So ultimately, I really like this draft for the Raiders. And if you don't think so, to hell with you. On to the Los Angeles Chargers, the Superchargers. Got that speed threat I want that I think the Chargers are missing, a guy that can really tear the top off of a defense in Jordan Addison. So I was happy from that point. I was like, all right, let's just grab some good players. Again, I knew I wanted a space eater, a nose tackle, and I didn't really get that at 55. I was like, Mike Morris, he's going to be versatile here, but I don't think he's not going to be a guy that's going to be the space eater. He's a good versatile piece to the defensive line. Keanu Benton, though, can be. So I was like, you know what? There we go. That's the guy I wanted. So I'm feeling really good at this point. Anthony Johnson's just good depth at corner. Israel Abanikanda is just a home run threat from the running back position. Josh Wiley is kind of this tight end 2, potential H-back option. And then Isaiah Land, first off, best player available. This guy's a nutty pass rusher off the edge. It's just he's undersized, so a DPI role I think would fit very well early. So I walked away fairly happily, mainly just because I was like, you know what, I got Jordan Addison. That's really what I wanted. So everything else was just kind of like the cherry on top. On to the Los Angeles Rams. Here we go. A team that only had 2 top 100 picks, and then didn't pick again until outside the top one or outside 150. And ultimately, I think we came away with a very good draft class. I got BJ Ojolari, got edge help, as you could tell. I ended up double dipping on edge help a little bit later on with Yazir Abdullah, who's also a guy that can work in coverage, so a good versatile player there for the defense. You can tell I also try to stress offensive line early on with Matthew Bergeron, and then Emil Ikor Jr., who's a guy a lot of the NFL thinks could be a solid starter. Felt good about that. I ended up grabbing Dwayne McBride because I was like, you know what, this is a good power back to pair up with Cam Akers. Grabbed Davis Allen, just ended up being kind of the best player on the board. So a good blocking tight end that's also a good red zone option. So they're on your 12 to 13 personnel. You grabbed Max. Really at this point I was like, you know what, let's just grab best players available. Max Melton was cornerback depth. Rashad Torrance, kind of best player available. But a guy that I think could probably push for some starting time. I'm not going to lie, maybe if they don't want to re-sign Taylor Rapp. Will Mallory, good receiving option at the tight end position, so he's very different from Davis Allen at that point. And then Miles Brooks, again, just cornerback depth. So I think this is a good class. I feel like this is the best you could really do when 80 year picks are outside the top 150. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 80 year picks are outside the top 150. So yeah. On to my Miami Dolphins. Fins up, baby, fins up. Pick 21, we forfeited, and I just wanted to say that. Gotta love it. So for my Dolphins, I knew I wanted to address that right tackle position. That was what I wanted to do most. It really was. And I grabbed Blake Freeland, who I think is the Abraham Lucas of this class, a guy that I was higher on that ended up going later in the 2022 draft. So I grabbed him here at 52, a guy who I think is similar to that. And Abraham Lucas had a really good rookie year. So I grabbed Blake Freeland. Then I grabbed the hometown boy in Tyreek Stevenson to add cornerback depth because they're going to need it. Byron Jones could be a cap casualty. And Noah Ibignagani has been a bit of a bust. Carl Brooks, because they did just fire Boyer as their DC, so depending on where they go, if they get a scheme change this year, Carl Brooks could be the type of guy that they want on the trenches there. And plus, I'm a big fan of Carl Brooks. I grabbed Durham Payne because Mike Gesicki is a free agent. And he's kind of basically Mike McDaniel's cup of tea at tight end. Mohamed Diobati Just a nice long linebacker. Not saying he's Fred Warner. He's not. But he's depth. I mean, I only had 5 picks here. I did the best I could with it. Hopefully I made my fellow Finns fans out there proud. All right. On to the Minnesota Vikings. Gear up, Minnesota Vikings. I took Anthony Richardson. Some of y'all will love it. Some of y'all will hate it. They're like, oh, we got needs. Well, if you don't want to re-sign Kirk Cousins after next season, bring Anthony Richardson in. Try to develop him in a year. There you go. And you know what? I still think I got okay, I'm not that high on Deontay Banks. But a lot of people think he'll go much higher than this. He's a really good athlete, very smooth athlete. I'm not a fan of how handsy he is, but I'm not against bringing in guys that are like overtly physical. There are just a few nitpicks that I have with Banks that really get under my skin. But he was very. This is a swing for the fences, or at least you swung for the fences with Anthony Richardson, and now you're just getting a great athlete at the corner position. I'm a fan. Grabbed Dylan Horton, who versatile body type, former safety, now playing there on the edge. You'd be like, oh, he must be like 240. This dude's almost 270 now. So yeah, calm down. So good pass rush depth. Jonathan Mingo, big-bodied wide receiver, good value there. And then honestly, Jay Ward. This is another swing on upside. A guy that has not really, like, you see the talent, you see the ridiculous athleticism on tape. However, he is a guy that is like constantly getting in the way of himself. If I'm gonna be honest. Like the awareness, I guess the football IQ could be a bit better. But at 177, I'm willing to take a shot on that guy. So that's what I did for you, Vikings. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of the Anthony Richardson hate. All right, on to the New England Patriots. I grabbed Brian Branch. Listen, Miles Bryant led the team in slot snaps last year, and I'm a huge mark for Brian Branch, and that's exactly where I want to start him. I think he would be a phenomenal addition to the secondary. Then I grabbed DeJuan Jones in the second round there. They need tackle help. I got you tackle help, and then I grabbed you a nose tackle because potential upgrade over who led in snaps last year? I think it was Devon Gotcha. So Keandre Coburn, a guy that I've really I was a bit slow on, but I finally kind of come around to. I did grab receivers. It was on early day 3, but I did. Jalen Marino Cropper. A cat that showed he could play in the slot, and he showed this year he could play on the outside. Nice after the catch type of threat. Jared Wayne, bigger bodied receiver. So I actually like that pair. Henry Toa this dude's super athletic, man. A guy that just, I don't know, maybe Bill Belichick. I think that this is the type of linebacker I think Bill Belichick would be like, we could probably try to get the most out of this guy. And then ends up doing nothing. I did grab a kicker for y'all to get you that nice competition for Nick Folks in Jake Moody. Carrington Valentine's good cornerback depth. Lonnie Phelps, I really feel like is a Bill Belichick type of player, just this high motor guy that Bill Belichick would love. Cameron Latu, Hunter Henry could be a cap casualty. Even if he isn't, this is the 210th pick in the draft. Travis Dye, I'm curious. Like, he's going to be at the Shrine. I wonder if he's going to practice. Like, I guess recovery from his leg injuries went real well. And honestly, Travis Dye is very different from what they currently have there in the backfield. So, like, this feels like, I want to say this feels like a Patriots draft, but it just doesn't. I don't know. I like this draft, actually, for the Patriots. All right, on to the New Orleans Saints. They now have a first rounder, but with their second rounder, I got them a legit receiving tight end because Juwan Johnson's not that guy. Dalton Kincaid. Didn't really like any of the receivers around that spot. And I just didn't want to draft Tanner McKee at that point. So I grabbed Dalton Kincaid there. Tanner McKee was literally sniped the pick before. I think, the Raiders had pick 71, right? Let me just go back and check. Yeah, they literally sniped. This is what happens when you get to drafting against yourself. I got sniped by myself. I wanted Tanner McKee for the Saints at 72, and I ended up taking him for the Raiders at 71. So I grabbed Kalijah Kancey. It's just nice defensive line pass rush. The pass rush was kind of lackluster this year for the Raiders. A.T. Perry, man, I know he's got a lot of fans out there. It could be that potential Michael Thomas replacement if they want to move on from him. Quindale Johnson is good depth at the safety position. Eric Gray, honestly, I love Eric Gray. I'm curious how he'll test out. Apparently, he looks quicker than apparently how he'll test out. I don't know how that'll be, but I think especially with Alvin Kamara might be a contract they try and move on from as well. Tim Demarath, bam, there you go. There's your developmental quarterback option there. And I actually really like Demarath. He's going to get a go at the Shrine Bowl. And then Habakkuk Baldonado ended up being best player available. So all in all, I like this draft. Yeah, I got sniped by myself at 72 or at 71, but kind of is what it is. All right, the New York Giants. There wasn't a receiver I was willing to take here. This was kind of tough. You'll find out Trenton Simpson wasn't on the board. So I was like, you know what? Cam Smith just kind of makes sense. They got to get some playmakers on the outside at the corner position. I don't know if they'll keep Adoree Jackson. Maybe if they could keep him at a very cost-effective deal, perhaps. He's worth it in my opinion. But there wasn't a wide receiver there. But I grabbed one at 58. I got a vertical threat with size and Jalen Hyatt. As you could tell, I did address receiver not early on day 3. I think that's day 3, right? Is 101 day 3? Or that might be... I think that's just the end of the third round. Regardless, Xavier Hutchinson, he's a bit different. I think he's got more after the catch potential than Hyatt potentially. In terms of forced missed tackles, Hutchinson actually could take on contact. I'm not so sure about Hyatt. So they're a bit different in that regard. I knew that I wanted wide receivers and I wanted offensive line help, and I got both of that while getting a very good corner too. So I was really happy about that as I grabbed Steve Avila, Anton Maffey. I did grab a long snapper because usually one long snapper is drafted every year. And Giants, I got you one. Fret not. I grabbed Jake Haener because why not, right? Why not? You never know. You never know with Daniel Jones. Everyone was singing his praises after the Vikings game, and then Eagles just, I felt knocked a lot of people back down to earth. But Daniel Jones, totally, they're bringing that cat back. He deserves another run as Giants QB. But I really like some of the other options I grabbed. I thought Evan Hall was a good get for depth behind Barkley, who I think they'll bring back. Jeremy Banks, a linebacker, very good athlete there, who was very productive this past season for Tennessee. Cameron Mitchell actually was a guy that I've only dabbled a little bit into, but he declared early, which was puzzling, but his production's good. He seems to be a good athlete. I don't have yet a written eval on him, but he was a name that I was like, man, I can't believe, why would this guy declare early? Had to look into it. So, cat that might end up being higher on my board, but I wanted to include him in this. Iku Leota, there we go. Probably a developmental edge. Another former, actually, he used to go to Northwestern. He transferred to Auburn. So I drafted three Northwestern guys for you. But he's got burst. Like he's got traits. It's just he is very raw in his hand usage, his technique, just everything. So I thought he was a good developmental guy on the edge. But I really like this draft class for the Giants. On to the Jets. Now with the Jets, I knew with the first pick that I wanted to go with whoever the top offensive tackle was there for me. It ended up being Peter Skoronski, which that works. He's a good versatile pick. This feels like a Joe Douglas pick anyway. And I knew that I was going to target Jamie Robinson in the second round. Get them some legit safety help. I love Jamie Robinson. I think he's a really good fit for solid scheme. I knew I wanted to get a linebacker, whether that was like a Noah Sewell, ended up being DeMarvion Overshown in this case, which that even works better. Like he's a very good athlete. He's got great length. He actually fits the scheme quite good. Then I grabbed a developmental tackle in my opinion, in Jalen Duncan. A lot of people are going to love the length. They're going to love the movement skills. But I think when it comes to like games against like good competition, he has really done it. So like I thought, you know what, this is a great guy to pick early day 3. Hunter Lupke, the fullback at North Dakota State, that final ingredient to the run game. Not saying he's Kyle Juszczyk because he's not, but you get a legit blocker. I like it. Kavion Merriweather, he's just a solid type of guy with special teams experience. So I like his fit here. And ultimately, I did what I wanted to do in this draft and then some. Like, I knew I was going to go tackle with the first pick. I knew I was going to go safety with the second pick. And I knew I wanted a linebacker with the third. And I did that. I'm happy. All right. On to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's right. I got y'all a punter. And you know what? This is one of the most precise punters in college football in Bryce Baringer. So I just wanted to address that right from the get-go. So I grabbed Brian Brazee. Some people don't like this pick. Some people do. Is what it is. I like pairing him next to Jordan Davis. I snagged Emmanuel Forbes at 32. With James Bradbury as a free agent, it just made too much sense. Darius Slay is up there in years. I think he's a good fit. Sean Tucker. I'm a mark for Sean Tucker. He is actually a very similar prospect to Miles Sanders, who is a free agent. So I thought it was a good fit. We had Aditamiye Adibariye out of Northwestern, a very versatile defensive lineman that could probably be, he can play edge, he could play that 3-tech. This is the type of versatile guy that I think the Eagles love. Think like Milton Williams. And then I ended up grabbing a receiver who's a very good after-the-catch threat out of the slot in Jadon Hasselwood, who I was surprised didn't go early in this mock draft of mine. So I'm happy. I thought I drafted good players. You tell me, Eagles fans. You tell me. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. I grabbed Broderick Jones. That was a pleasant surprise because I was thinking I'm probably going to go maybe corner with this pick because I just assumed the top 3 tackles would be off the board. I was also warming up to like Osiris Torrance or Brian Branch. I was like thinking of a lot of ways I could go with this pick, and that was going to kind of dictate what I did for the rest of the draft. Aside from, I knew I was going to go nose tackle with the first pick in the second round, but whatever I did with the first pick was going to dictate everything after that. I ended up getting Broderick Jones. I was very happy. This is ideal. I think he's a perfect fit for the Steelers. Then I grabbed that nose tackle I really wanted in Mozzie Smith. Listen, Larry Ogunjobi, he's whatever. Good replacement here. Eli Ricks available at 50, and I was like, you know what? Cameron Sutton is a free agent. Eli Ricks could end up going higher than this. He was kind of a surprise declaration. Snagged him here. He's a good fit. Grabbed a Noah Sewell. Got that linebacker to replace Devin Lloyd. Having him paired up next to Miles Jack, I think is kind of scary. Kobe Wooden, I think Wooden, he's a bit of a tweener, but I think he's big enough to challenge DeMarvin Leal. And you also got to start considering, okay, Cameron Hayward, he's old. He's gonna stop producing at some point, right? And then, I mean, okay, listen, Jordan Howden, he's just a very solid safety pick late in the draft out of Minnesota. Surprised his teammate Tyler Nubbin didn't declare. I had him as a top 75, but Jordan Howden's pretty darn good in his own right. So for me, I thought this was an ideal draft for the Steelers. All right, on to the San Francisco 49ers. Listen, you didn't have a pick inside the top 100. I was like, you know what, just give me good players. Olusegun Oluwatimi, I thought probably could have gone earlier. He's here for me at 100. Bam, you got your center. I'm happy. Brandon Joseph, versatile player there in the secondary. For San Fran, Fajoko, the edge out of San Jose State. Listen, the Niners love their edge talent. He was best player on the board. Ryan Hayes is just good tackle depth. Riley Moss, good corner depth with actual return ability. McGlennon Curtis is potentially good depth there on the offensive line in general. A guy that played tackle but probably is more of a guard in the NFL. Braden Willis is a good tight end 2 fullback H-back option that you maybe could start developing. Dallas Daniels, listen, they selected Juwan Jennings, who I was actually really high on in that draft. I had him as a third rounder. He ends up going, late day 2 or late day 3. But Dallas Daniels, he is another guy that's this missed tackle machine that I think the Niners would love. And then Stephen Gilmore was available here at the back end of the draft. A guy that played corner his whole career that just doesn't have the size to it. That's going to have to move to safety. And I like that for the Niners. So this was literally just grab good players. Grab guys who happen to be the best players on the board. So I did. All right, on to the Seattle Seahawks. My game plan was probably always going to be Myles Murphy. A lot of people are projecting Tyree Wilson here. It's basically the same logic. They're very similar prospects to some regard. And I was like, if Kelee Ringo is still on the board there, I'm going to take him. If not, I think I was going to be hard-pressed to be talked out of taking a swing on Anthony Richardson. Ended up not being the case. I ended up taking Ringo. So can you imagine pairing him up next to Woolen? Just these big monsters with crazy straight line speed. Siaki Ika, I thought was also a good choice. Good space eater that they don't have, at least with his upside. Luke Whippler, there is a good upgrade, in my opinion, over Austin Blythe. Then I grabbed a pair of linebackers because you really don't have good linebackers. Jordan Brooks will likely miss the first part of the 2023 season. So Dorian Williams is kind of that coverage guy who is a legit dog as a tackler. He's a bit undersized, but a very sure tackler, very physical. And then Cameron Jones is that thumper, that violent tackler. So that's kind of like, I like that duo. I really do. And then I went with Trey Tucker, who has really good return ability. I know you got DJ Dallas there, but you could always try to do better. Jared Patterson was best player available, first off. And just, again, I really also want to address the interior offensive line position since they already did the tackles last year. So I thought this was solid. I grabbed another corner because, hey, cornerback depth's never a bad thing. And Starlin Thompson, or Thomas, is like he's 6 foot, 195, and he's just super fast. So I was like, that's a good pick. I really like this draft class for the Seahawks. On to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I grabbed Trenton Simpson here. Levante David's a free agent. So I thought ideally you replace David with a really good space eater here. Or a very good guy a very good player out in space. He's a very good player out in space. Wow. Okay. It's not like this is near the end of the video. It is near the end of the video. I only got 2 more teams after this. All right. But Trent Simpson, a linebacker that plays very well out in space. Good replacement for Levante David. Isaiah Foskey is that pass rush help. There wasn't a corner there that I was really tempted with picking because I was like, man, I really want a corner here. I was tempted to take Keely Ringo at 19. I decided going with Simpson. But I ended up getting Garrett Williams, who could fall down boards, but is a very good talent. I also ended up getting Justin Ford, who has shown very good ball skills there for Montana, who's going to be at the Shrine after a good Hula Bowl. Noah Daniels, who honestly probably would have gone so much higher if not being just plagued with injuries his whole career. So you're kind of rolling dice on a guy like that because Jamil Dean, Sean Murphy-Bunting are both free agents. There's a good chance they might not be able to sign either of those guys. So yeah, I try to dip as much into the corner position as I could, at least after the Foskey pick. Aiden O'Connell, listen, I really don't think Tom Brady is going to be with the squad next year. I think they could bring in like a Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr would make sense for the squad. Aiden O'Connell, I don't know how they feel about Kyle Trask. I'm assuming not great. So Aiden O'Connell honestly isn't a bad option here. Like he's a cat that I could see starting like a game his rookie season and being okay. Braden Daniels, he was best player available first of all, and could probably immediately challenge that left guard spot. Chris Rodriguez, get a power back to maybe eventually replace the dump truck Leonard Fournette. Then Jordan McFadden, kind of the same thing as Braden Daniels. McFadden was actually exceptional value too at that spot. So all in all, I thought this was an all right draft. All right draft for the Bucs. On to the Tennessee Titans. Okay. You're going to look at this draft and be like, what the heck? The first 2 picks were totally geared towards Derrick Henry is my offense. He is. So guess what? Left tackle. I think Taylor Lewan's going to be a cap casualty, or Lewan Taylor. Taylor Lewan. He's going to be a cap casualty. Bam, Paris Johnson, tackle of the future. There you go. Now you just got to figure out the left guard spot. At 42, I was like Chig Okonkwo is more of a tight end 2/downhill offset in the backfield type of player. Like Darnell Washington, basically another offensive tackle on the field. Also, like, not a bad receiving threat. Like, not the most dynamic receiving threat, but not a bad one. Moves exceptionally well at 6'7", 270. So I was like, you know what? If I'm really all about, hey, we need to make sure everything working around Derrick Henry is fine, then let's do it. And then I got to freaking pick 73, and I was like, I don't believe the replacement for, like, the future replacement for Derrick Henry is on this roster. But if it's going to be anybody in this draft, it's going to be Zach Charbonnet. This guy's a power back, north-south runner through and through, eats contact. So that's kind of was the thought process with my first 3 picks. Darnell Luter is good cornerback depth, best player available, a guy that I really like. Then we got Servassier Dennis. David Long's a free agent, but I'm pretty confident they'll probably breed him back. But Dennis is a very good athlete and linebacker. Kyrus Jackson was an interesting guy here. He's got size to play on the outside, but mainly played slot there for Georgia. Could go much higher than this. We're going to see him at the Shrine and actually get probably a better actually look at him than we did at Georgia. But yeah, let me know what you think, Tennessee fans. I bet you look at this draft and you're a bit startled, but there was some logic behind it. Just saying. On to the Washington Commanders, last but not least. All right, Washington Commanders. Yeah, I went with Michael Mayer at 16. Boo-hoo. Cry me a river. The only corners I was looking at here was Keely Ringo and Cam Smith. And you know what? I was like, screw it. You know what? Injuries were abundant at the tight end position for freaking Washington. Let's go ahead and get Sam Howell, a very good pass catcher, and Michael Mayer. So I did it. Clark Phillips III was available at 48. Yeah, he's a bit undersized, but I think in Jack Del Rio's scheme, he could play on the outside. I mean, shoot, freaking Fuller does. So I grabbed Phillips there. And you know what? I ended up grabbing a bigger corner anyway later on in the draft in Keandre Smith out of Kentucky. So, hey, if things don't work with him, maybe you could push Smith out there. I thought he was a good late option. And then at 98, I grabbed Joe Tippmann, who I think could probably play any position on the offensive line, but I think obviously you're going to be playing him at guard in this scenario. Tajay Spears, Antonio Gibson will be a free agent, not this season, but next season. Let's go ahead and find that replacement. And if anything, Spears is already a better version of J.D. McKissick. Ivan Pace, he was best player available, but also good depth at the linebacker spot. Just good football player that lacks ideal size and length, and that was probably why he'll slip down boards. TJ Bass is a guy that played tackle, but he probably is guard in the NFL. Tyke Smith is actually probably a slot-only prospect, but was really good value at 235. And if anything, really good special teamer. So, yeah, you let me know what you think about Ed Washington. And finally, that's it for the video. This video is going to be massively long, but takes a lot of work. Show it support. Give it the thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hopefully you enjoyed it. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.